It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the number one business development and revenue focused late night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission at the end of the day is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Christian Jenkins, and he'll be talking about something very important, which is the authentic ROI. Now, we'll figure out what that is in a moment. I can't wait to talk about it and really talk about how deep intimacy really helps you be successful. Wow, I like the topic already. What's going on, Brian? How you doing, my friend?
Shay Brown, I couldn't be in a better place in the world right now than to be here with you. You know, we've graced the stages and some conference rooms over the years, but it's great to be on this platform with you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, man. And before we get into how famous you are and your great background and all the wonderful stuff you do around the world, let's just slow down for a moment and let's just address the elephant in the room, because folks are reading the authentic ROI and they're seeing the word intimacy. Okay. And it raises a lot of questions. So I guess the first question on someone's mind has to be, what in the LL Cool J does the authentic ROI mean? And what is Brian's view of the world? What's his definition? Talk about that for a moment, if you would.
Yeah, I'd love to. So essentially, when I look at the authentic ROI, I'm talking about like essentially how we feel about ourselves as we go through business and professional acumen and growth. We all know what the term ROI means, return on investment. And what I like to focus my attention on too is the entrepreneurs in regards to how are they doing that? How are they attaining their wealth? How are they building their empire? How are they of service? And from that place of an authentic place, meaning you have a very good connection with you. You know where you're going, why you're going there, how you want to get there. That's what I mean by authentic ROI. So being able to have a connection with the why behind the why, because it's easy to say we're just going for money. It's easy to say I'm just going for the big business. It's easy to say I'm going to because I want to expand and serve millions. But how are you with you in that journey? And I put the attention on that because that's where a lot of us get burned out. A lot of us get stuck in the rat race, even it's our own rat race. You know, we're entrepreneurs, it's our race, but we forget what race we're on, or we kind of just lose sight of like who we are in the process. So we have all the material things to prove that we can do it, but then yet we're somehow left feeling empty, or we're left feeling like I'm still not on purpose, or I'm not leaving my legacy. So that's a little bit of context around the authentic ROI.
I love it. And you've achieved success in business. You've achieved it in leadership. Yet with all the success you had, you mention on stage that something was missing. I guess the question I have is, what was the wake-up call for you? I guess that's really the question. What was the wake-up call that you knew something was just missing for you?
Yeah. You know, it's wild. That's not the first time I get that question, but every time I get it, when I think about what that wake up call was, I always gets that response in my body. Like it feels emotional. So, you know, in as short as possible. So I was living in Spain at the time, and I was had opened my first business. It was a printing shop. It was a office supply store. And I closed that business down. The business was meant to be a tool to get my Spanish visa, which I got, but it wasn't my passion. So I closed that down, and I was going through trying to make a life in Spain. I was organizing two weddings, a wedding in Spain for my wife's family, ex-wife's family now, my family here in Orlando. I was taking intensive Spanish classes so I can say my vows to her family as clearly as possible. I was secretly taking saxophone classes so I can play a song for her on our wedding day. I was building another new business on Amazon and launching a product on Kickstarter. And I'm saying all these things because it was a desperate place for me to try to figure out some kind of meaning about my life, you know, starting over from all over again in a different country. Well, I knocked it out of the park. Everything got accomplished. Spanish class was done. Saxophone classes were done. Two weddings happened. Had a 2-week vacation in the States as our honeymoon. And when I came back, Jay, I came back and I was dead. Obviously not literally dead, but physically, emotionally drained on the couch, where I laid for about a week, and I thought like I had the flu. It felt like flu symptoms, but I didn't know exactly what it was until after about a week went by of just feeling sick to my stomach and not knowing why, because I should be happy. I just got married. 2 weddings, got businesses going. I'm living in Spain. I live in a small Spanish island off the coast of Morocco. Why am I not happy right now? And the rock bottom for me is I was chasing my tail. Like there was really no meaning behind what I was doing. I was doing the right thing. I launched the business. I get the project. I was being creative. I was being a romantic husband. I had 2 weddings. I made it easy for everyone's side of the family. But me, there was a lack of authenticity of who I was. There's a lack of connection of who I was, lack of intimacy of who I was. And so what that meant is that just my body, my whole state of being just kind of crashed down. So that's the context of where that breakdown was for me and what that aha moment was. Something's got to change because this ain't working.
Thanks for being so authentic. Thanks for being so open. And I know when I first met you, it was at a men's conference actually with Shelly Fan, who may be watching now. Shout out to you. And you were really focusing on the men at the time, right? It was a men's conference, so it made sense that you be focused on men at the time. But here's what I'm really curious about. You've guided, I don't know, hundreds, if not tens of thousands of men through this personal growth journey, right? You've had a chance to do something like that. I guess my question is, before we get to your background, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to find out who he is. He'll tell his backstory. He gave you a little piece just now. But I'm curious, what are some of the challenges you see that men face? I'll say it like that because you're speaking to men, that men face today that they rarely talk about. What are some of the challenges they face that they rarely talk about? And if you're a woman, you're going to be able to benefit from this as well. So you lean in as well.
Oh, look, the women, for the women who are watching, you might get lucky. I just touch on you too. You are not going to get out here scathe free, but we'll put the focus on the men. And let me just actually say why I focus on the men real quick before I answer your question, because, as we look at the landscape and we look at all the things that are going wrong in the world, whether it's too much war, aggression, violence, the depletion on the planet and so forth and so on. And we want to put the lens on men and the patriarchy. And there's some truth to that, okay? But the bigger truth is it's not that just inherently because men are in leadership is why the world is the way it is. It's because we have men who have a lack of connection with themselves. So this is when I go back to the place of how we lead the world and decisions that we make and why we're making them is why I do the work that I do. So to bring that back to your question, what a lot of men are moving through life and they're really unaware of it is that we're rewarded for producing. We're rewarded for results. We're rewarded for getting it done. And unfortunately, far too often, we don't ask the question, how did that man get the thing done? What was behind that? What was sacrificed? Who was plowed along the way? Who got hurt along the way? What was destructed along the way? Because at the end of the day, we're really not, we don't care too much about it because we want to get the end result. And again, this isn't all men. This isn't all men. This is not the typecast. So what we don't know is when we do that along the way, there may be a sense of satisfaction around what we've accomplished. We have the thing, we got the plaque, we got the recognition. They put us on stage. They gave us the name on the side of the building, and that's all great. But yet and still, we still feel empty, and that's the part that I help men to solve. Is how can you still get the accomplishments? How can you still get the accolades? How can you still get the results without feeling as if you have somehow turned turned your soul, to a dark place to get there. So I'll pause there for a moment if that answers the question.
You were spot on, by the way. And as you were saying that, I was curious what you would say to the entrepreneur right now who's watching. And maybe you're a dualpreneur. We have some folks who are dualpreneurs. You work a full-time job and you're a full-time entrepreneur. Shout out to all the 9-to-5 millionaires out there. Come on, a shout out to you, by the way. Or and you might be watching saying, wow, what would you say to someone like me who's at the point right now, Shay, as I'm listening to him, that I'm chasing the success as an entrepreneur or in my career, but yet I'm feeling unfulfilled? What advice, and I know it's unfair because some of you are different places in your life and so forth, but would you say that person right now who is where you were not so long ago, Brian, what is 1 or 2 or 3 things you would suggest to that person that's listening?
Yeah, well, Shay, the question is relevant regardless of where you are. And this is where it has to come back to you being able to be honest with yourself. And the honesty means is you don't have to take away the success. No one's going to take what you've accomplished. But your ability to slow down for a second and check in with you and say, do I like how I'm moving through life? Do I feel good in how I move through life? When I have my success, when I have my millions, when I have my accolades, do I sleep good at night? Right? You don't have to tell anybody. That's just your internal dialogue to yourself. So once you're able to slow down and just ask yourself an honest question, and this is the kicker, give yourself an honest answer. Nobody's going to know. It's just you versus you. You can start to say, okay, what can shift here? I don't really feel fully fulfilled. And then the next, so that's step one. Step two is to give yourself an answer without the judgment. Because what often happens, especially if you are high energy, you're a high performer, you excel a lot, is sometimes that critical voice can feel like a threat to us. So if you can say to yourself, okay, yeah, actually, I don't fully deeply feel fulfilled. If you can do that without saying, well, you should feel fulfilled, look at your car, look at your house, look at your millions, look at your wife, look at your kids. You should feel fulfilled. You don't deserve to feel unfulfilled, because that's what I went through. I went that with years, not even give myself a chance to tap into myself, because I was like, but Brian, you live in Spain. You have the wife, you have the car, you have all your trees. You park your car under an avocado tree. You live in a beautiful place. I didn't give myself a chance to recognize that something was missing. So that'd be step two. And then the third step in that is give yourself another honest answer, but with a good question. What is it am I really lacking? And the lacking thing is, oftentimes what we're gonna have to do is take a step away from the physical things you see, because we'll gravitate towards, well, again, I don't know what I'm lacking. It's the house, it's the material stuff. But this is where it comes back to the intimate side of you, because it doesn't matter about the material stuff. The material stuff is outside. The sense of lack or sense of lack of fulfillment is an internal game. So when you are able to say, okay, what is it that I don't feel fulfilled about? What is that? And oftentimes it could be, you know what, actually, the way I'm moving through business or moving through life is I'm not making time for people who I say I love. Actually, I feel pretty transactional. When I meet with my friends, I'm actually not fully present with them because I'm still on my phone. Actually, when I'm watching my kids' game, I'm actually watching my kids' game and doing work at the same time. You know what? When I got that deal, I got that next big multi-million dollar deal. I probably like stepped on some people who I really didn't have to step on. I could have done more of a win-win-win scenario. So whatever that is for you, it's just the ability to be honest. And again, I'll repeat this for a fifth time. No one's going to know your responses. And oftentimes we are even afraid to ask these questions and give ourselves these answers, because it becomes real. And that's what we want to. We want this stuff that may feel like it's in the shadows, in the darkness, to come into the light. But again, this is you versus you. So your ability to just see that within yourself can give you more scope about where you really are in life.
Words well said, by the way. And there's some person that's listening right now. They're in the kitchen saying, wow, Shay, I like what Brian is saying. I like how he started off. I like how he was being authentic about his marriage and going to Spain. I don't know this person, Shay. I didn't Google him beforehand. I didn't read his resume, Shay. I have no idea who he is and what he represents. And I don't know his backstory. We got you. Don't worry. Someone else might be in the gym right now listening to us. Thank you so much. And others of you choose to be with us. Maybe we're on your big screen TV. Hey. But I'll go and ask the question now, since we're so far in, which is, Brian, we'll pull back for a moment. And if you had to take a minute or two and talk about who is Brian, what's Brian's backstory? What would you say to the person that's meeting you for the very, very first time, my friend?
Yeah, well, I'm going to do this in two parts and bring them together, which makes me who I am today. So I'm the youngest of 9 kids. I'm the only multiracial one in my family. So I have 6 black brothers, a black sister, and a white sister. And I always say that because I come from a very diverse background. That's the takeaway message. They don't feel like half brothers or sisters. They all feel they are my brothers and sisters. Now, growing up, being the youngest, that left me feeling as if I wanted more time for my dad. Now, as a youngster, I really couldn't fully understand that my dad has 8 other kids to worry about, 5 total, mothers to navigate, his own ambition, his own career. So my father could never fully give me the attention that I wanted. Somewhere along the way, as my younger self told me, made himself a very convincing argument that it's clearly my dad doesn't love me. I'm not enough, because if I were enough, he'd give me more time and attention. I couldn't understand that he has other things to do, but I never went without food. He never was abusive. This is my story I told myself. So that sense of lack and that sense of not feeling enough started to make me, again, be a bit of a chameleon. I became someone who tried to always go out of my way to make someone happy or to earn their love and earn their affection, which is fine. Actually, it was very successful for me. It worked. because when it came to work ethic, school, sports, academics, I excelled, I exceeded. When it came to building networks, relationships, and maintaining those, I did a phenomenal job. But then, Shay, we go back to that your kind of first question, or that my first experience was there was still something about me that felt unfulfilled. There's still something that didn't feel fully complete. There's still something that felt a bit empty. There's a void there. I had all the evidence. I had smiling faces and people opening doors for me, and yet I still didn't feel as if I was fully there. Now I'm going to jump over to college. Going into college, and just have a real grown folks conversation, especially again for the men out there, and some of the women will appreciate this at the same time. Is I suffered a lot from sexual anxiety, and sexual anxiety, just put it simply, was performance anxiety. Can I measure up going to college on the big scale of things? I was in a fraternity, so I had a lot of attention on me, and in the sphere of can I actually show up? So in that phase of being detached on the outside, feeling very accomplished, feeling very recognized, feeling received very well by a lot of people, but then internally, again, internal, intimate dialogue with myself was, I'm not good enough. I can't perform. I'm not going to make them happy. What if they find out who I really am? Are they going to laugh at me? So I had to kind of keep on forcing this persona. I had to keep on forcing this idea of who I was because I dare not let people come and see what's inside of me. Going over to Spain now. So I went over to Spain. Actually, I'm sorry. How I got to Spain was I did an MBA degree in London. So I was in London for 2 years. Then got hired for an American company to work down in Spain. Now, in that transition, I lost my entire identity because all of my accomplishments of being on board of directors for a nonprofit here, working for a Florida state senator, before I moved away, being on different kinds of committees for different kind of nonprofits and fundraising, no one cared. No one cared about the frat. No one cared about my degree. No one cared about my 2 degrees. Nobody cared. At the end of the day, who was I in this new country without these things? And that was the next level for me when you talked about, okay, well, what was the aha moment? The aha moment is I didn't know who I was without all these titles. I didn't know who I was without all these labels. And so all these things come together to the work I do today because, again, all have a very similar story to mine. It may show up in different ways. Is they don't understand or know who they are. Success. Who am I without the power? Who am I without the accolades? Who am I without the results? And so when we go back to what I like to see in the world and how I think there'll be a big shift is when we have more men who are healed and who are aware of who they are, their emotions, and their deeper why they're here, not to produce. That's just a side effect. That's just what they can do. Then we'll see more cohesion across the board. We'll see less violence. We'll see less aggression. We'll see deals that are being made that benefits not just one person or one country, but multiple nations and multiple peoples. So that's and ultimately why the work comes together from my own experience, using myself as essentially a case study, being willing to unravel who I am, being willing to take that risk of throw away that identity and shed that identity every single year, and then come back and present myself as the most authentic version of myself, whether it's in my personal life, my romantic life, my social life, and even in my family. It's an ongoing process.
I like the ongoing process, and thanks for sharing that story. By the way, amazing. And now you're where you are. First of all, you're back here in the States, and last time I checked, so that's pretty cool. And looking good, drinking this water over there, and getting his mojo back. This is really incredible. But I am curious on the other side of what would you say to the entrepreneurs watching now? What's the one action that they could literally take this week? Like they don't need an app. They won't need any fancy AI software. Well, maybe they do. I don't know. We'll find out in a minute. But what's one action that they could take this week to create a deeper connection with themselves and a fulfillment in life? Again, that's a broad question. But he said, a lot of things you could do. Yep. Here's one thing you could do this week. Like, and all of you now, this is the moment you've been waiting for.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be anything new or compelling. And hopefully maybe this time, if you heard it for the third or the 30th or the 300th time, it'll sink in. But what happens as entrepreneurs, we're always too busy to slow down to take care of ourselves, too busy to slow down to listen to what's going on the inside, because we're always going. Time is money, right? If I'm not moving, the competition is going to get it. So I have to keep on moving. This we talk about the internal authentic ROI for yourself. So one thing you can do right now, as soon as you finish listening to this, give yourself literally 5 minutes. I'm talking about 5 minutes of undivided silence. Phone off, airplane mode, just turn it off, away from everyone, and sit in silence and ask yourself, who am I? What do I want? And what am I here for? What am I on this earth for? Who am I? What do I really want? And what have I put on this earth for? Now, obviously, the more time you give yourself, the deeper you can that question will sink into yourself. The more times you can ask yourself that question, and the better you'll get a more rich, concentrated answer. But start there. That's step one. There's no hack in this. I'm not going to. I can send you off to do the tools, the frameworks, or to do the one thing. But at the end of the day, just as you know for your business, you built it for something to be sustainable, for something to last, something to be viable, you have to invest consistent energy into it. And you are that ROI that I'm talking about. And so that's it. 5 minutes to yourself, three questions, and that'll get the ball rolling.
I like the part where you are the ROI. Spot on. At the end of the day, you've got to do the work yourself, on yourself. And what better person you start off with? I like the ROI, and then investing in yourself for where you are right now. You know, one of the questions I like to ask, Brian, we have a few minutes, and we got a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice that you ever received? And understanding for the audience, you've had more mentors along this journey than you probably can remember these days. You've certainly read more books than you can remember, if people are still reading books. You watch more videos, you've been to more seminars, you probably have done a lot of training. But if you had to step back and say, you know, here's one of the best pieces of advice that was given to me that I just want to share and pass along to the audience, what would it be and why?
So I'm struggling between these two, but so I give them both. I'll say the first
Well,
one if
give us
I'm
two.
saying,
That's fine. Go ahead and give us two. That's cool.
and it's simple, and sometimes it's the simplest things can be hard to get your head wrapped around, but it's called high intention, low attachment. And what that is, and again, going back to what people, and this we're kind of focusing on men right now, struggle with, is high intention. The highest intention can be what your goals are, what you're looking to achieve in your business, how you want to be perceived, what you want to accomplish, what the results are, but the low attachment. And the low attachment is to gain that specific result. And why I love that and why it's been transformational for me is because as a perfectionist, as someone who felt as I need to do more to prove my worth, I need to do more to prove that I'm enough, I need to do more to show that I'm lovable. If I didn't get it right, or if I felt like I wasn't going to get it right, I wouldn't do it. Or I tell myself a story to see, Brian, that's why you're not enough. And that stifled my growth. So for you all out there, even if you are doing phenomenally well, you have your 1 million, 2 million, 500 million that you're breaking in. If you're already operating at that level, that is a good question to ask on an energetic, emotional, even a spiritual level. Is there a place where I'm highly attached to result that's not allowing me to be more creative? Am I highly attached to result that I'm actually dragging some weight that could be slowing me down? Even if you're already in the $500 million bracket. We, as good as we are, there's always some ways in which we, how you say this? I want to say be more. Low attachment. This how you froze here. The second
Yeah, you're back. You were just saying how you do one thing, and then we were waiting on that the pin to drop.
as well is if you are kind of a bit transactional in business, you might be transactional at home with your partner. If you find yourself struggling to see something like a creative solution in the job or in your business, you might be struggling to see creativity in your romantic life. If you find yourself that you are always kind of not really present because you're always multitask, you're getting things done quickly, 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 you might be doing that with your kids. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can recognize, identify a blind spot or a weakness or an inefficiency, I love that better, an inefficiency in your life, just again, going back to that silence, that 5 minutes can be magical. In that next 5 minute question, like, where else might I not be present with people I say I care about? Where else am I being highly transactional? I might actually not be relational. Where else am I, so focused on the end outcome that I'm not willing to be creative? Where else is that? So, and that's the reason I love that is because now it makes you, versus then trying to focus on one problem at a time, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you can solve for one thing, now you solve for multiple things in your life to be more effective.
I love it. Wherever you are, be present. What does success look like for you these days? What does it feel like for where you are in your life and your career and your spiritual walk?
So you say, what do the states feel like?
What does success look like for you
Success.
these days? What does it feel like for you these days?
Yeah. Well, it feels hell of a lot different than it did before. So today, what it feels like alignment. And what I mean by that is yes, there is a material success I'm after, serving more people, creating more experiences, being of service to more people, but not just doing that. I've done that before. But remember, I said as I was doing that, there's still a sense of emptiness and unfulfillment. So that's why I bring in the alignment. So it's how am I doing that and how do I feel about doing that? Do I still feel good about what I'm doing? Am I still taking care of my internal ROI? Am I carving out time to rest? Am I carving out time to meditate? Am I carving out time to decompress? So that when I step on to my romantic relationships, am I fully connecting? Am I actually doing my due diligence to make sure this person needs to be in my life? So success for me looks like, still going through and creating like the opportunities, creating the strategic partnerships with Shelly's organization, teach me how to heal. It goes about to creating more live in-person events. So that way, when I'm working with these entrepreneurs, which I've been primarily doing online, especially in Spain, is bringing them into a room and having an embodied experience. So when that happens, success feels like, okay, great. Now we're taking it from the theory. Now we're taking it from behind the screen and getting these men actually to feel the transformation in their body. So for me, success feels like, can I fully serve at a higher level? So while the masses, there's a time in my life where I wanted to just like I served and coached a million people. And while that's still not necessarily a goal that I'm taking off the table, I'm less concerned with the numbers of it. But what if it were just 100? But that 100 men got served with my presence because now I'm with them 100%. Now I'm fully looking at the ins and outs of their lives. I'm not being transactional. I'm looking further down the line for them and help them see things, when their journey finishes with me. Because although their journey may finish with me, they're still going on a journey. So now can I send off a concentrated army of men out into society who then will affect more men and then help me get to my millions of impact down the road?
I love it, by the way. I love it. Well said, by the way. As we come down the home stretch, because this has been interesting, come down the home stretch, really a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients you're looking to work with? You talked about clients throughout this whole thing or working with folks. So, if you had to put it, in the category, what type of clients are you looking to work with? Because I'm not sure if your firm's taking on any clients. And number two, how can folks connect with you? They're listening. They like what they heard. Like, man, I'd like to maybe bring Brian in to do a keynote at my office, or maybe I like to be a part of some of Brian's trainings, or maybe they're listening and say, I like to just be in his circle, in his community. Where can I go? Where can I find these guys? So go ahead and answer the question. What type of clients you're looking for, number one? And number two, how can folks get connected with you so they know the next steps?
Yeah, I love the question. So first, I'm looking for primarily, again, my sweet spot is with men. Okay, men are the leaders of the world right now. I think we're meant to be leaders in society, in most scopes. Not because women can't do it, so that's a different conversation. But I think we're meant to lead. So I'm looking for that leader, that decision maker, that change maker who is making an impact, who is clear on where he's going, and yet he's is honest enough to say if something is not quite right. I feel like either my energy is low, I don't feel focused, I don't feel fulfilled, or going down to low energy and energy leaks. A man who's maybe just high performer and finds himself getting whisked away with his sexual energy, sexual desires. This is also what we see in high performing men, whether it's leadership, politics. We've been seeing all the news around the Epstein files and whatnot. And this is a collection of men who have lost sight of their desires. They have misplaced their energy and to impose on other people. So if you are able to recognize that, something doesn't feel balanced, I don't necessarily feel good with who I am, then you are the ideal client for me. It will be hard work. It will be expansive work. It will be transformative. But just like the same dedication you put into your business, you can put that same, energy into yourself and get much bigger ROI. The best way for people to find me is going to be Instagram. That's going to be the where I have like most of my up-to-date content, or my website, which is brianchristianjenkins.com. Brian with an I, christianjenkins.com. You're able to request a call, and we'll have an introductory kind of discovery call, and just better assess like where you are and where you want to be, and if I'm the ideal person to help you along this phase of your journey right now.
Well said. Let me say thanks so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show, man. You're making a difference, not just for men, but for families and for women all over the world. So thanks for all you do, man. Can't wait to have eye-to-eye contact with you again soon.
Likewise, I appreciate you being here, Shay. It's you've been an inspiration, like you mentioned, since we got together on the stage. The man of many talents, such a ball of energy, such a delight. You lift the room, and I just said one thing you mentioned this before about what can you do. So I even say a third point to this is get around people who uplift you. Get more Shay Browns in your life. Get more people who are on the same wavelength, the same frequency, who are going to help compel you, because we're human. And so when I go back and I said about not judging yourself, is oftentimes is when we make our mistakes, we kind of like lower ourselves down. But when you're around other people who are at a high frequency, it's harder to fall so deep. So Shay, thank you for your work, and thank you for inviting me. And as you said, I look forward to being on stage with you again soon.
Thank you so much. And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because, well, without you, we don't have a show. You have a lot of choices, and you choose to be with us. I never get tired of reminding you, every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you're doing really, really well and you're just going to that next level of success, whatever that level of success looks like for you, or you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming. The one thing we do know, is Brian had talked about today, is that you can slow down, get an authentic ROI when you invest in the intimacy inside of yourself. With that being said, make it a great day, everyone, and we'll make some good things how we connect again next time. God bless. We'll see you all soon. Bye-bye. Peace, everybody.